All right, don't get mad in the comments section, but today we're going to discuss a very tough topic, which is why is it that so many games are just completely skipping Xbox? We're not just talking first parties or exclusives. Obviously, Uncharted and Zelda are never coming to Microsoft's console, but actually consider all the really weird AA, AAAs, the indies, the third-party stuff that is never going to exist on any Xbox platform. And people are starting to say, what's really going on? I mean, the Xbox, the sales aren't the best, but it is still a big spot to go. And game developers, they're not even bothering to acknowledge it. They're not even porting it for what feels like some free extra cash. Let's discuss this big, messy problem. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, the motivation for this video is actually this tweet I saw kind of going around Xbox Twitter with a lot of people extremely enraged. So there's this little French studio that's called Microids. They make like little cutesy RPGs and stuff. And right now, they're working on what seems like a decently budgeted Inspector Gadget game. And as you can see, it's coming to the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 4, the Nintendo Switch, and PC, but obviously not the Xbox. It's never coming to the Xbox. And people are actually saying, are we going to get an explanation? Why is it coming to everything except that? And so they replied, if the demand is strong enough, we will consider the possibility of offering the title on Xbox. And a lot of people are straight up actually saying that this is a terrible response. I don't understand why the Xbox community has to beg for your games. I'm pretty sure the demand is evenly split. A lot of people are saying this. You are an embarrassing developer. I mean, a lot of people are actually just kind of, if anything, sort of thinking that this is just a weird thing to even put out as a public statement. This is a crappy response. You should do this regardless. But actually, over on the more professional Xbox journalism side of Twitter, even they seem to be a bit aghast. This is where we're at with Xbox as a platform now. Developers think the platform isn't big enough to even be worth considering. And a lot of people are just sort of mulling that over. A lot of the replies are a mix of shock and awe. Because keep in mind, even though Xbox sales are way behind the Nintendo Switch and obviously tens of millions of consoles below something like the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X is still the fastest selling Xbox console ever. I mean, this is part of what's so weird about the fact that everybody's skipping Xbox is that Microsoft is not new to this. They've been making games now for decades. And I mean, if you can make successful cash off of games like Gears of War and Halo, it's really weird that now everybody has sort of unanimously decided to disregard the Xbox. But I think there's actually an extra layer to this that's extra tasty to me, which is the theory that John Lineman has been putting out. So this is the guy who's very famous from Digital Foundry, does a lot of big tech breakdowns. I mean, the guy is way more educated than I am, and he dropped this interesting little tidbit. I kind of feel like the popularity of Game Pass is what makes this tricky. Developers seem hesitant to put games out without that Game Pass deal, which not all games can receive. The retail presence is also shrinking. It's frustrating to see when there should be a way to satisfy everybody. Now, there have been a lot of leaks and stuff talking about the fact that if you make a game and Microsoft decides to give you that Game Pass paycheck, it's pretty lucrative. A lot of times it does seem like they cover a big chunk of your total development cost to put it on Game Pass forever. That's part of how they're getting so many crazy indie games on Game Pass is because, I mean, they're willing to pay the cost to put it there forever. I like this tweet specifically on that topic, which says that this is the Game Pass double-edged sword. Great for the titles which are able to join it, but slots are limited. And if you can't, are the sales good enough to justify a port? Now, I have seen some numbers kicked around that it does cost perhaps millions and millions of dollars minimum a lot of times to port a decently sized game to another platform. So I think a lot of times if you're making a game, it does sometimes come down to just raw math. All right, how many copies do we actually think we're going to sell for this? Okay, if we think it's going to make a big financial blowback, it's going to make its cash in droves on a bigger platform, if we port it to the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch, that's already 35 million consoles. That's 120 million consoles when it comes to Nintendo Switch. There is a big install base that could possibly buy it. We don't need the Game Pass paycheck to actually make our money back on that port. Whereas it does seem like Xbox gamers just don't buy stuff. A lot of Xbox gamers either wait for Game Pass or they wait for a sale or buy it used, which I'm not even hating. I mean, you want to be cheap? Hell yeah, save that dollar. But if you're coming from a retail standpoint, you're trying to sell your game, you're trying to sell it as upfront and as high cost as possible to make your money back, maybe Xbox is seeming less and less like an island you want to land on, like this. So they're deciding to skip it, but they still put it on the PlayStation and the Nintendo Switch. How did they gauge demand for a game that nobody knew was coming? It does seem to be happening more and more. There has to be something driving it. It's not like they'd make these decisions out of spite. Any insight on what's going on? And Nick, he's the founder of Xbox Era. He says, I'm not sure. With these Xbox Japanese developers, like games coming from Japan and selling on Xbox, they don't really sell. Historically, they're not exactly major hits. But instances like this, a tiny French developer making an Inspector Gadget game, it seems a lot less clear. Maybe fishing for a Game Pass deal, but who knows? Now, I think it actually is connected to something like this. Square Enix has been talking a bit about Final Fantasy 16 during the big press tour. FF16 is coming out here in a matter of weeks. I'm so freaking excited. I'm about to rip my freaking eyes out. I'm so ridiculously hyped for Final Fantasy 16. But what's kind of fascinating is that it will only exist on PlayStation forever. They're doing a PC port down the road. We don't exactly know how long. Seems like it's going to be 6 months or a year. But apparently, according to Square Enix, PlayStation offered a deal for exclusivity and Xbox just would not match it. Now, there's some extra delicious details that apparently, when it comes to these kinds of deals, PlayStation exclusivity is extremely generous and beneficial for developers and publishers. Now, from what it sounds like, usually they do a lot of big marketing contracts. Now, you're not even going to believe these numbers, but a lot of times when it comes to major exclusives like God of War Ragnarok or Forza Horizon and Halo and stuff like that, these publishers spend sometimes tens of millions of dollars actually advertising the game itself, putting out commercials, hiring actors, doing the CG, putting out a demo, making sure it's blasted on every single Twitch ad or the ad break I'm going to put in the video right here. I think that's interesting because a lot of times now, if somebody says, we will cover marketing cost, that means it's more than just putting your game in a state of play. That actually means massive money spent. And it sounds like PlayStation, when they're actually trying to do these exclusivity contracts, they say, we'll advertise, we'll lend you developers to make sure your game is finished and fun. There have been some rumors that apparently PlayStation in the past has even given their game engine to people just straight up. Like if you are making a game and you're about to make the sequel, PlayStation will just give you a high dollar expensive PS5 dev kit so that you're more incentivized to build it first on PlayStation. It's wild to think about, but I do genuinely think that this mostly just boils down to the fact that right now, I just think that right now Xbox is in a strange spot because Game Pass has become this poisoned chalice. If you get a Game Pass deal, it's going to be a huge success. I mean, a lot of times it seems like these games, people are very accepting, people are very excited. If you get a game on Game Pass, it's going to actually get Xbox gamers to at least try it out. But if you don't do it, if you just rely on sales, people actually buying it on Xbox, I just don't think that's ever going to be a big thing ever again. I just personally believe Xbox gamers don't buy games. And I feel like the numbers back that up. Sales charts kind of just show. If a game is coming to Game Pass, they'll play it, they'll love it, they'll post about it, they'll brag about it, they'll tell their friends to subscribe to Game Pass. But if you're some whoop-de-doo AA game trying to gather up a bit of attention on a platform that's already suffering with not enough eyeballs on it, you're going to sink before you get a chance to learn to swim. At least that's what it seems like. But what do you guys think? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. Oh man, I'm filming this before I ate breakfast and I'm absolutely freaking starving. Also, my chair broke last night. Look at this. I'm sitting on this freaking thing. This sucks. I got to order a chair. Well, of course, the second I get done filming and editing this video, they released a statement saying that it is, in fact, coming to Xbox. Gamers made their voices heard, and so that's great. I still don't think this game is actually going to sell. We'll see if anybody actually buys it. If it's not on Game Pass, I'm not buying it. I don't think anybody. I think this game's going to kind of flop on Xbox, but we'll see. Congrats to the 6 Inspector Gadget fans. You guys win, whatever this dude is. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.